I was caught. I done lots of crimes. Some of them I got away with. I think it's a good job. Best of luck to whoever got the few quid.
If someone does a robbery and no one's killed or no one's shot, it sounds like, well, they're an ordinary decent criminal. There's no such thing.
Armed robbery brutalises people.
They tax you on the proceeds of crime. That's what the Criminal Assets Bureau do.
Because of my ignorance to the tax laws, that's why I paid them that. They didn't get paid on the proceeds of crime. They got paid on taxes.
The Criminal Assets Bureau, by its name and its very nature, is about two things. It's about criminality and it's about assets.
But you were a major criminal.
Well, I don't know what is a major criminal. Like, I mean, is a major criminal a guy who doesn't pay his tax? Is that a major criminal?
No, a person who's involved in two of the biggest armed robberies in the history of the state is a major criminal.
Well, that's not me.
This is the story of a modern-day criminal godfather, Gerard Hutch. The once poor boy from Dublin's inner city is today a multi-millionaire. Some achievement for a man who, as an adult, never held down a full-time job. So how did he do it? He says compensation claims enabled him to buy houses, invest his money, and ultimately become wealthy. Others point to two of the biggest armed robberies in the history of the state.
I started with 25 plus 9, 10, 35, and I've done a lot of business in property. It was a good time, and that's where I made my money. If people say armed robberies, so be it. I mean, I was questioned about these armed robberies you're talking about, so we let them decide, the people.
But the figures don't add up.
Sometimes figures don't add up.
At 5:30 p.m. on the 26th of January 1987, three armed and masked men held up and stole over £1.3 million from a Securicor cash in transit van outside the Bank of Ireland at Mourinho Mart in Fairview in Dublin. Gerard Hutch says he wasn't involved, and yet £75,000 from that robbery ended up in his Northern Ireland bank account. The Gardaí recovered another £129,000 from two men, Francis Sheridan and Loman Hickey, who they believed were acting for Hutch. Sheridan and Hickey admitted laundering the money and were subsequently convicted and jailed.
No, not the money they had. It wasn't my money.
Well, they said it was the money from the Mourinho Mart robbery.
Well, then it was for the Mourinho Mart. It wasn't mine.
And they said they were holding it for you. They were laundering it for you.
Yeah, well, that's not true. They weren't.
£75,000 of the money from the Mourinho Mart robbery ended up in your bank account in Belfast.
No, I had a bank account in Belfast with money in it, all right. I wasn't under Mourinho Mart.
It was found to be the Mourinho Mart money.
At the end of the day, yeah, they weren't happy that I had proper title to it, and they didn't give it back to me.
They didn't give it back to you because it was the Mourinho Mart money.
I don't know about that.
It was Securicor's money. The Belfast High Court gave it back to Securicor and said that was the money that was stolen from the Mourinho Mart robbery, and you were trying to claim that was your money. So obviously you either stole it.
I did claim that was my money, yeah. It was my money, and I lost my case. It wasn't their money.
But it's not just money that's lost during armed robberies, and while no one was killed at Mourinho Mart or Clonchok, people were traumatised and irreparably damaged.
We've had individuals with a gun put to your head, and you were told, if you don't do this, I'm going to either kill you, kill your family. We've had situations whereby family members have been told, if you don't do what I'm going to ask you to do now, you're not going to see your wife and child alive again. Now that's not normal in any society. That's not victimless.
And I saw the result of this type of crime at first hand in Templemore, Scott Middle ceremony in 1982, when we had 3 Garda widows presented with Scott Middles. Their husbands had been mown down in the previous 18 months in the course of armed robberies and one person carrying explosives.
8 years after the Mourinho Mart robbery, a gang of armed and masked men broke into the Brinks Allied Security cash holding depot at Clonchok in North Dublin. This time the loss was more than double that of Securicor's. £2.8 million in cash was driven away across the backfields and never recovered. Once again, The prime suspect was Gerard Hutch.
I know all about it. I've been arrested, questioned about it, I've been written about. That happened in 95. I thought it was 96. It was 95. 13 years ago.
£2.8 million.
Yeah.
The biggest robbery in the history of the state at the time.
Yeah.
You say you know all about it. Tell us about it.
I've read all about it in the newspapers. That's what I know about it. And any time it's written about, my photograph is thrown in. I was brought down to the station, arrested.
Well, what was that like?
Well, they interrogated me about the robbery, and I think they were satisfied it wasn't me, and they released me.
I don't think they were satisfied it wasn't you.
They released me at the end of the day.
Well, they had to, because they had no evidence on you, because it was such a well-planned job.
No, if you've no evidence on something, it's obviously you didn't do it.
No, it's not obvious you didn't do it.
You know, if everyone knows you've done it, like, everyone knows you've done it, there has to be stuff to back it up.
The main suspect was arrested following an exhaustive Garda inquiry and nothing of evidential value. When you go in and you have to, the very first thing that you have to tell a person who's been interviewed is you're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so, but anything you do say will be taken down and given in evidence. You're actually telling that person to stay quiet. And that's the reality of it.
And is that what happened?
That's basically what happened. He would talk the hind legs off you about anything else that you wanted to talk about, but ask him anything in relation to the robbery, he knew nothing, and on the advice of a solicitor he had nothing to say.
In fairness, the Gardaí believe you did it.
Yeah.
There's enough intelligence to link you to that robbery. There's enough intelligence to link you to the Mourinho Mart robbery. The community believe you did it. And every criminal in Dublin believes you did it.
Yeah. Okay. And why would they all believe that? Not the guards, every criminal and every people in the city. Because they read it in the paper. I'm beginning to believe I've done it myself from reading it in the paper. When you read these things every week after week, there must be no smoke without fire. It looks that way, it sounds that way. If it barks, it's a dog. I didn't do the robbery, you know.
But why do you say that when you know you did and everybody else knows you did it?
No.
I mean, the money that you made, the figures just don't add up. I mean, we've just gone into the Mourinho Mart one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the compensation claim, it doesn't really wash.
It doesn't wash with you, it washes with me.
Well, the evidence is there in the money and the figures that don't add up. Because 1 minute, you're a guy who has no money, who's grown up in poverty.
Yeah.
You get a compensation claim.
Yeah.
And now you're a multimillionaire. Very suddenly you're a multimillionaire. And coincidentally, around the same time, 2 of the biggest armed robberies in the history of the state are carried out.
Yeah.
And you're linked to both of them.
Yeah. That's it.
Do you really expect people to believe that?
I don't care what they believe, to be honest. But what can I say? If everyone believes I've done them, hands up. I didn't do them. That's all I can say.
It's very difficult for the police to call in known criminals and try and get information when they can just sit there and look at a fixed spot on the wall. Second element is you've got bail laws that, from our perspective as an industry, as soon as we see who's out on bail, we know we're going to get attacked. Because these people are going to commit robberies because they're going to go away for a long stretch, so they might as well get done for 2 than as for 1 crime. The third element is that the judicial system, and we've seen it from tribunals, etc., it's just so long, so convoluted, it can take years from the time someone's picked up for the time that they're prosecuted.
Gerard Hutch says he is now a respectable, legitimate businessman. He drives a Hummer around town. A perfect gentleman, he carries, amongst others, debutantes to the ball. The company is registered as Carry Anybody, or CAB, his own little joke on the Criminal Assets Bureau, which sent him a bill for over £2 million. Hutch negotiated a settlement and paid £1.2 million, £500,000 of that in cash. He also availed of the tax amnesty.
Because of my ignorance to the tax laws, that's why I paid him that. I built up a portfolio of property and I had bank accounts, and this is it. I didn't pay me tax.
They taxed you on the proceeds of crime. That's what the Criminal Assets Bureau do.
The Criminal Assets Bureau tax people. I mean, well, when you say the proceeds of crime, it's tax. Not paying your tax is a crime. And that is, if you mean that way.
No, that's a different crime.
But it's a crime, so they've probably taxed me on that type of a crime. But they didn't take money off me from security van robberies and say, we want their tax out of that.
There are people out there who would have you believe that a certificate of tax clearance meant that people were innocent of criminality. A certificate of tax clearance is just that. It is not a certificate of innocence. We tax the proceeds of crime. Criminal Justice Bureau, by its name and its very nature, is about two things. It's about criminality and it's about assets. And it's about linking those assets derived from criminality back to criminality before we can bring a case before the courts.
I had a problem with the amount you were looking for because I couldn't afford that amount. Well, we came to an arrangement and we settled.
You still have your money, and lots of it.
I still have a few quid, of course. That was the deal. Can't leave in you knew it. You have to meet people halfway.
The tax settlement has not, however,